Welcome back to the channel, guys. Big Dog Brett. Today we're going to be talking about the Auburn Tigers 2019 returning class. Alright guys, I'm going to jump right into it. This is the third time making this video. Twice the camera has failed to record after about 3 minutes. So I've sat here and talked to myself the first time for almost 15 minutes and the second time for about 12. So we're going to go through this really quick. Good news is that I've kind of got it streamlined at this point. So please understand that my intention is not to make a trash talk video. I do make trash talk videos, but this is not one of them. There's no need at this point. Basically, all we're discussing is what, the talent that's coming back. How do I think they're going to perform? Who's going to be the impact players that are returning? Not the upcoming freshmen. We're not talking about who came in the recruiting class. What we're talking about is who is going to be the leadership on this team, and who are we going to be looking for to be the standout returning players. So if you made it this far in the video, hit a like, thumbs up, subscribe, share, do all that wonderful stuff. I'm trying to get to 1,500 subscribers before the start of the season. So we're about 20 away. I'm pretty sure we can do it, but it's always nice to ask. So thanks so much for you guys. If you've watched the videos or you watch my other videos and you enjoy them, feel free to watch my other videos, and don't forget to comment. So all right, so let's talk about the 2018 Auburn Tigers stats, kind of where they're coming from, what they really did last year. Last year was not a banner year for Auburn. Auburn ended the season on 8-5 under Gus Malzahn. There's a lot of people who really expected Gus Malzahn to perform better than that, especially with the amount of money they're paying him. I think that it's somewhere in the tune of like $7 or $8 million a year. The buyout is absolutely ridiculous, but I guess that's the way it goes. Gus Malzahn is expected to really perform pretty highly. But every year, this guy has a pretty brutal schedule. I don't feel sorry for Gus Malzahn. I hope they keep him forever. But he's got to play Alabama every year. He's got to play Georgia every year. He's got to play LSU every year. And then whatever other team comes along in the conference that's, difficult to play. So he, every year he's got a serious schedule he's got to contend with. This coming up year is no exception. So you're going to need quality players that are able to fill the roles of the players that left. Deshaun Davis is no longer with the team. Stedham's no longer with the team. Darius Slayton's no longer with the team. So you're filling a quarterback role, plus you've lost some of your key playmakers. So who's really returning that's going to be somebody who's going to make an impact? I believe probably one of the biggest impact players you're going to have was your #1 offensive guy last year, and that's Jartavius Whitlow. Jartavius Whitlow had 150 attempts on 78 yards, averaged 5.2, and that's in rushing. If you look at his receiving, it's 15 receptions for 173 yards for 2 touchdowns. So this guy had almost 1,000 yards in offense, and had 8 touchdowns, almost 6 yards in average per carry when you combine the two numbers. The next guy out there is Cam Martin. Cam Martin's back. He's another one of those guys that's a running back / wide receiver like Whitlow. The guy has an opportunity to be a standout player. These two kind of worked in tandem back and forth. His numbers were not as good as Whitlow's, but still good. 103 yards attempts on the ground, 450 yards, 4.8 yard average, 1 touchdown. Receiving, 10 receptions, 64 yards, 6.4 a carry. Very serviceable. So, swapping these guys in and out at running back. Sean Shivers, another one of those guys who's a running back / wide receiver, 70 yards per attempt, 371 yards, 3 touchdowns, average 5.3 yards a carry. Receiving was not as good. He had two receptions and went for negative yards. So the next guy who's back that I think is going to be the biggest impact player coming up is Anthony Schwartz. Anthony Schwartz has 27 receptions, 211 yards, which is an average of 7.8, and 5 touchdowns. It's really strong. He's a #1, with the exception of some guys who just got a few carries and got big stuff. Anybody with a decent number of carries, I say over 20 or over 10 really, he has the highest average. He also had 22 receptions, so he has more receptions than anybody else on the team that's a running back / wide receiver. Went for 357 yards and averaged 16.2. 2 touchdowns. This guy had the second most touchdowns on the team, right behind Jartavius Whitlow. So he's obviously an impact player. Looking for him to come back and make a strong impact this coming up season. So let's talk about the pure wide receivers. The number 1 wide receiver on the team was Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton had 35 receptions for 670 yards. That's a 19-yard average and 5 touchdowns. That's phenomenal. If you look at Seth Williams, he's the guy who's going to be filling that role now. He is a returning, I want to say junior, but I'm not sure. You know, I don't have that stat in front of me. It's easy to look up, and it's really not important. Just know that he's going to be back. 26 receptions for 534 yards. He had a higher average than Darius Slayton at 20 yards and 5 touchdowns. This guy was really, they would flip back and forth between these two. The Gus Malzahn offense spreads people out. They do all these weird plays. They mix stuff up, and they try to confuse the defense, and they do an okay job of it. This is one of the guys that's going to be stepping up, and they're probably going to expect Sam Cannella to fill that role as to be the offset. Let me check that real quick. Yeah. So they're going to be expecting that Sam Cannella, or whatever, or however you pronounce his name. If I don't pronounce the names right, sorry. I didn't name these guys. I don't know how to pronounce all of them. If I get it wrong, sorry. Is what it is. So now I'm going to kind of jump over to the defense. Your number 1 guy on defense last year was Deshaun Davis. 57 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. He's gone. So the next guy we want to look at is going to be Daniel Thomas. Daniel Thomas is going to be the next leading tackler on this team with 48 tackles, but he only had 2 tackles for loss. They're going to expect more out of him. If you look at the next guy on the team, which is Darrell Williams, 7 tackles for loss out of 37 solo tackles. They're going to look for more out of him. One of the things that I look at is the sack ratio. You know, can they get in the backfield? And one of the guys that does an excellent job of that is Nick Coe. Now, Nick Coe doesn't have a ton of tackles, but the tackles he does have, which he has 15 solo tackles. He has 26 on target, 13.5 for a loss, 13.5 tackles for a loss, and 7 sacks. This guy's definitely showing some ability to disrupt a quarterback and to get in the backfield and create an impact. So that's a great player to have. The next player I want to talk about is Derek Brown. Derek Brown, 26 solo tackles, 10.5 for loss, and 4.5 sacks. Wow, just a super impressive player. The next guy I want to talk about is Noah Igbenefino. Don't know how to say that name. But 39 solo tackles, only 1.5 for loss. The thing that impresses me about Noah is not his sack ability, but it's his return ability. This guy plays defense, does a great job on defense, soaking up tackles, and he also has 11 returns for 311 yards. That's an average of 28.3 and a touchdown. That's really, really impressive. If you're looking for an impact player, I think that guy could do a phenomenal job. If we jump down to one of the things I think that Auburn could probably improve upon would be its field goal kicker. It's a 60% ratio. Obviously, we're spoiled at Georgia with Rodrigo Blankenship, but this guy has a 60% field goal completion ratio. That's not awesome. You really want to see that number a little higher, especially if the game comes down to it. Let's see. I think that's really about it to me anyway. I think that the new starting quarterback is probably going to be Bo Nix, and I think he's going to make a dramatic impact. We'll just have to wait and see. As far as the rest of the team goes, there's some talent there, some stuff they've got to step up. They have a serviceable core. They did lose some quality guys. But do I think they currently have the talent to go out and rule the SEC West? No, I don't. I think it's pretty difficult to look at that team and say, yep, they're going to do a phenomenal job this year. They're going to run the table. They're going to go 15-0. I think anybody who's objective would find that pretty difficult to swallow. I think that they're probably looking at another maybe 9-4 season, maybe 10-2 if they can get lucky and knock off LSU. But I think that if they play Alabama, pretty sure they're going to struggle that game, and I think they're going to struggle with Georgia. So, but Texas A&M could very well be a problem. LSU could very well be a problem. So I mean, it's one of those seasons that it could really go kind of in any direction. Looking at the 2019 roster 2019 Auburn schedule, it's not exactly what you would call friendly. So while I've got you guys on here, I'm going to go ahead and go over the season with you real quick. I think I've kind of talked about this before, but I think it's important to realize that this schedule it's pretty tough. They start out with Oregon. Don't know how good Oregon's going to be, but Oregon is one of those air raid offenses. They really haven't been all that great since Chip Kelly left, but I think they have an opportunity to be good this year. Tulane, not worried about Tulane, not worried about Kent. Texas A&M, to me, is probably going to be their first real big test. Mississippi State, not worried about that. Florida, maybe. Not worried about Arkansas. LSU, I would be concerned about. Ole Miss, not worried about that too much. You get a bye week before you play Georgia. That may work in your benefit. Samford, I wouldn't be worried about those. And then Alabama, I'd be worried about that game. I think that, there's a possibility that they could be 9-0 when they play Georgia. That's a possibility. But it's also possible that they could be 7-2. It's hard to say at this point. But Gus Malzahn is definitely catching a lot of heat from the fan base, definitely catching some heat from some of the administration there at the college. We'll see what they do this year, but as far as it goes, I think they've got some talent. We'll see what they can do with it. Hopefully they can get their stuff rounded out. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you've made it this far, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you guys down in the comment section. And as always, God bless. Go Dogs.